The emergency klaxons aboard the Earth Defense Station Omega had been silent for 3 months. Commander Sarah Chen liked it that way. But she knew the silence wouldn't last. Standing at the observation deck, she watched the massive form of humanity's last hope taking shape in the construction yards below. The Prometheus wasn't just another warship. It was humanity's final answer to an enemy that had pushed them to the brink of extinction. "Commander, the latest simulation results are ready," Lieutenant James Rodriguez announced from behind her. His voice carried the weight of someone who hadn't slept in days. She didn't need to turn around to know his uniform would be as wrinkled as his forehead. "Tell me something good, James," Sarah replied, her eyes still fixed on the crystalline structures growing along the Prometheus's hull. The adaptive matrix was their greatest breakthrough, or their most desperate gamble, depending on who you asked. The quantum core is stable at 87% capacity. Better than yesterday, but still not where we need it to be. He paused, shuffling through his datapad. "Dr. Watson thinks she's identified the resonance issue. Says she can have it fixed in 48 hours. Sarah finally turned away from the window, her reflection replaced by the harsh reality of their situation. The command center behind her was a graveyard of empty stations, each one representing an officer lost in the massacre at Proxima Centauri. "We don't have 48 hours. The Archon fleet will reach the Kuiper Belt in 36. The Archons, even their name was a mockery, self-proclaimed governors of the galaxy who decided humanity was too dangerous to let live. Their first attack had come without warning, turning Mars into a molten wasteland. Their second had shattered Earth's orbital defenses. The third should have ended humanity entirely. But somehow, they'd held on. "Ma'am," a new voice cut through her thoughts. Admiral Zhou's hologram materialized in the center of the room, his aged features bearing fresh scars from the Battle of Titan. "The Council has made their decision." Sarah straightened, her spine stiffening. "They're going to shut us down, aren't they?" Quite the opposite. A ghost of a smile crossed Zhou's face. "They've given Operation Phoenix the green light. You have full authorization to proceed." The words hit her like a physical force. After months of fighting for resources, for time, for the mere chance to prove their theory could work, they were finally getting their shot, but the cost of failure would be absolute. "Sir, the Prometheus isn't ready," she protested, even as her mind raced through contingencies. "The adaptive matrix is untested in combat conditions. The quantum core isn't at full capacity." "It's ready enough," Zhou cut her off. "The Archons think they've got us cornered, that we'll surrender when their fleet arrives. Instead, they're going to find humanity's teeth." Sarah looked back at the Prometheus. Its hull seemed to shimmer, the crystalline lattice responding to changes in the solar wind. The ship was beautiful in a way that defied traditional military aesthetics, more like a living organism than a machine of war. It was exactly what they needed it to be, something the Archons couldn't predict. "Lieutenant Rodriguez," she called out, her decision made. "Begin immediate crew deployment. I want every system checked and double-checked. Dr. Watson has 24 hours to get that core to 90%. After that, we go with what we have." The command center erupted into activity. Warning klaxons, different from the emergency alerts, began to sound throughout the station. Through the window, Sarah could see maintenance crews scrambling across the Prometheus's hull, their work taking on new urgency. "One more thing, Commander," Zhou's hologram flickered. "We've decoded more of the Archon transmissions. They're not just coming to finish us off. They're afraid." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Afraid? Of what?" "Of what you've built. Our long-range sensors picked up quantum fluctuations from their fleet. They're pushing their drives beyond safe limits to get here faster. Whatever their intelligence told them about the Prometheus, it's got them spooked." A predatory smile crossed Sarah's face. "Good. They should be." The next 24 hours passed in a blur of activity. Sarah moved through the ship, overseeing final preparations, her mind cataloging every detail that could mean the difference between victory and extinction. The crew, handpicked from Earth's surviving military forces, worked with quiet efficiency, each one aware of what was at stake. In the engine room, Dr. Elena Watson's team had performed what could only be called a miracle. The quantum core hummed at 92% capacity, its massive energy output carefully contained within fields of pure mathematics. The adaptive matrix had integrated fully with the ship's systems, turning the Prometheus into something that was neither purely organic nor purely mechanical. "It's not just a weapon," Dr. Watson explained as they stood before the core. "It's light casting strange shadows. Its evolution made manifest. Every hit it takes, every weapon fired against it, will only make it stronger." The Archons think in straight lines, in predictable patterns. The Prometheus thinks in possibilities. Sarah understood then why the Archons were afraid. They'd encountered humanity before, had studied their weapons and tactics. But this was something new, something that broke all the rules they thought they understood. The Prometheus wasn't just a dreadnought. It was humanity's capacity for adaptation given form. As the final hours ticked down, Sarah took her place on the bridge. Around her, crew members settled into their stations, each face set with determination. Through the main viewport, Earth hung like a jewel against the black, its surface still bearing the scars of previous battles. "All stations report ready," Rodriguez announced from his tactical station. "Quantum core is stable at 92%. Adaptive matrix is fully integrated. Weapon systems are online." Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. "Send word to Admiral Joe. Operation Phoenix is commencing." She paused, looking at each crew member in turn. "The Archons think they know everything about us. They think they can predict our every move, counter our every strategy. Today, we prove them wrong. Today, we show them why humanity has survived every challenge we've ever faced." The Prometheus's engines came to life, a deep thrumming that seemed to resonate with the human heart itself. As they broke from Earth's orbit, long-range sensors detected the Archon fleet, still accelerating toward their solar system, still expecting to find a broken enemy waiting to be finished off. "Plot a course to intercept," Sarah ordered, her voice steady. "It's time to introduce ourselves." The great ship moved forward, gathering speed as it prepared to jump. Behind it, Earth grew smaller, a reminder of everything they fought to protect. Ahead lay the unknown, and an enemy that thought they had humanity figure out. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. Jump drive spooling up, the navigation officer reported. "Quantum fields are stable. Ready on your mark, Commander." Sarah Chin, commander of humanity's last hope, gave the order that would change the course of the war. "Jump." The Prometheus vanished in a flash of light, carrying with it humanity's future. The hunt was on, and for the first time since the war began, humanity wasn't the prey. The quantum wake of the Prometheus rippled through space like a stone cast into still water. Commander Sarah Chen watched the tactical display as reality reasserted itself around them, the vast emptiness of the Kuiper belt stretching out before them. But they weren't alone. Multiple contacts, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, his fingers dancing across his console, counting 16 Archon warships in attack formation. They're just sitting there. Sarah studied the enemy formation. The Archon ships hung in space like abstract sculptures, their crystalline hulls refracting the distant sunlight. They were beautiful, in their way, and deadly beyond measure. One such ship had been enough to devastate Mars. 16 should have been enough to annihilate anything humanity could field. "They're waiting for us," Sarah said, a grim smile playing across her lips, expecting a conventional response. "Let's disappoint them." The bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency, bringing the Prometheus's systems to full combat readiness. Through the neural interface at her command chair, Sarah could feel the ship's adaptive matrix humming with potential, ready to evolve in response to whatever the enemy threw at them. "Enemy ships are powering up weapons," Rodriguez announced. "They're launching their first wave of attack drones." The space between the two forces filled with thousands of crystalline shards, each one a semi-autonomous weapon platform. It was a favorite tactic of the Archons, overwhelming their opponents with sheer numbers while their capital ships hung back to deliver the killing blow. "Dr. Watson," Sarah called over the ship's comm. "Time to test your theory." In the engine room, Elena Watson stood before the quantum core, its pulsing light casting strange shadows across her face, initiating adaptive response protocols. "Stand by." The crystalline structures along the Prometheus's hull began to shift and flow like liquid metal. What had seemed like mere decorative elements revealed their true purpose as they formed new patterns, responding to the approaching threat. "Interesting." Dr. Watson's voice carried a note of satisfaction. "The Matrix is already learning. It's analyzing the drone's energy signatures, adapting our defenses before they even reach us." The first wave of attack drones struck, or tried to. Where they should have torn through shields and armor, they instead found their energy weapons absorbed and redirected. The crystalline surface of the Prometheus rippled with each impact, growing stronger rather than weaker. "Holy shit," someone whispered on the bridge. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Now," she ordered, "show them what we've learned." The Prometheus's newly evolved weapon systems came online. Streams of energy, modulated to match the exact frequency of the Archon drones, lashed out across space. Entire squadrons of the crystalline attackers shattered, their fragments adding to the deadly dance of light and shadow. On the main tactical display, Sarah could see the Archon fleet reacting with visible confusion. Their perfect formation wavered as individual ships began to break ranks, their commanders clearly uncertain how to respond to a threat that defied their understanding. "They're launching a second wave," Rodriguez reported. "Different configuration this time. They're trying to find a weakness." "Let them try." Sarah leaned forward in her chair. "Helm, take us in. Nice and slow. Let them get a good look at what they're dealing with." The Prometheus moved with deliberate grace, its hull still shifting and changing as it absorbed and adapted to each new attack. The Archon drones threw everything they had at the human ship: energy weapons, kinetic projectiles, even exotic particle beams. Nothing seemed to work. With each failed attempt, the Prometheus grew stronger, its defenses more sophisticated, its counterattacks more devastating. "Commander," Dr. Watson's voice held a note of urgency. "The quantum core is performing beyond projected parameters. The adaptive matrix isn't just learning. It's creating entirely new defensive paradigms. We're seeing evolution in real time." The Archon fleet was now in complete disarray. Their carefully coordinated attack had devolved into individual ships firing desperately at the approaching human vessel. Their weapons, once so devastating to Earth's defenses, seemed to splash harmlessly against the Prometheus's ever-changing hull. "Target the flagship," Sarah ordered. "Let's give them something to really think about." The Prometheus's main weapon array came online, drawing power directly from the quantum core. The crystalline structures along the hull aligned themselves into new configurations, focusing energy in ways that defied conventional physics. "Target locked," Rodriguez confirmed. "Ready on your mark." Sarah took a moment to appreciate the irony. The Archons had come to exterminate humanity because they feared what humans might become. In doing so, they had forced humanity to evolve faster than anyone could have predicted. Fire. The beam that lanced out from the Prometheus was unlike anything ever seen in human space. It carried with it not just energy, but information. The sum total of everything the adaptive matrix had learned about Archon technology. When it struck the enemy flagship, it didn't just damage the vessel. It rewrote its very structure at the quantum level. The Archon flagship died from the inside out, its crystalline hull turning to dust as its own technology was used against it. The remaining enemy ships reacted with panic, their formations completely breaking down as they attempted to retreat. "They're running," Rodriguez announced, unable to keep the satisfaction from his voice. "All remaining Archon vessels are attempting emergency quantum jumps." Sarah watched as the enemy fleet scattered, their once proud ships fleeing in different directions. "Let them go," she ordered. Let them tell their masters what they found here. Let them spread the word that humanity is done being the victim. As the last Archon ship vanished into quantum space, a cheer went up from the bridge crew. But Sarah remained focused on the tactical display, her mind already working on the next phase of their mission. "Dr. Watson," she called, "what's the status of the adaptive matrix?" "Still evolving, Commander. The encounters with Archon technology have accelerated its development far beyond our original projections. The Prometheus isn't just adapting anymore, it's anticipating. Learning." Sarah nodded, understanding the implications. The Archons had brought their most sophisticated weapons to bear, and in doing so, they had given humanity exactly what it needed to fight back. "Send word to Admiral Zhu," she ordered. First engagement successful. The Prometheus performed beyond expectations. She paused, allowing herself a moment of satisfaction. "And tell him the chains are broken. Humanity is no longer bound by the limitations our enemies try to impose on us." As the message was transmitted back to Earth, Sarah Chen looked out at the debris field that had once been the pride of the Archon fleet. This was just the beginning. The real war, the war for humanity's future, was about to begin. And this time, they were ready for it. News of the Prometheus's victory spread through the galaxy like a shockwave. On the bridge of humanity's most advanced warship, Commander Sarah Chen reviewed the latest intelligence reports with growing concern. The Archons hadn't simply retreated. They were gathering allies. 7 different species have joined their coalition, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, highlighting various sectors on the tactical display. The Meridians, the Vor Collective, even the Quantum Concordat. They're all mobilizing their fleets. Sarah studied the movement patterns, noting how the alien armadas were positioning themselves in a massive encirclement pattern. The Prometheus had proven itself against one Archon fleet, but this was different. This was an alliance of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations, all united by a single fear: humanity's potential. "Dr. Watson," Sarah called over the comm. "How's our patient?" In the engineering bay, Alina Watson stood before a hovering crystalline structure, a fragment recovered from the destroyed Archon flagship. "Fascinating doesn't begin to cover it, Commander. The adaptive matrix didn't just destroy their technology, it absorbed its fundamental principles. The Prometheus is still integrating what it learned. The implications were staggering. Their ship wasn't just adapting to enemy weapons, it was assimilating their technological foundations, growing more sophisticated with each encounter. No wonder the other species were terrified. New contact. Rodriguez's voice cut through her thoughts. Massive quantum disturbance at the edge of the system. It's like nothing we've ever seen." The main view screen shifted, showing a tear in space-time larger than any they'd encountered. Through it emerged a structure that defied conventional physics, a massive ring-shaped object that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "The Nexus," Sarah whispered. Every human knew of it. The legendary seat of the Galactic Council, supposedly destroyed eons ago in a war that reshaped the galaxy. Its appearance now couldn't be coincidence. "Commander," the communications officer called out. "We're receiving a transmission. It's being broadcast on all frequencies, in all known languages. Put it through." The voice that filled the bridge seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Children of Earth, your evolution proceeds faster than anticipated. The parameters of the experiment must be adjusted." Sarah's blood ran cold. "Experiment?" "Your species was seeded, as all were, to test different paths of development. The Archons were meant to be your shepherds, guiding your growth through controlled conflict. But you have exceeded the established boundaries. The Prometheus represents an unacceptable variable." The bridge crew exchanged shocked glances. Everything they thought they knew about their place in the galaxy, about the war itself, was being rewritten. "Lieutenant," Sarah ordered, her voice steady despite the revelation. "Full scan of that structure. Dr. Watson, I need you to." The ship suddenly rocked violently. Warning klaxons blared as multiple systems reported simultaneous failures. "We're being probed." Rodriguez shouted. Something's trying to access the adaptive matrix. In engineering, Alina Watson worked frantically at her console. The Nexus. It's not just scanning us. It's trying to rewrite our base code, to put us back in our box. Sarah felt fury rising within her. Humanity had never been free. Their entire history had been a controlled experiment, their struggles orchestrated by beings who saw them as nothing more than test subjects. Not anymore, she growled. Dr. Watson, initiate Protocol Omega. Commander, that protocol is theoretical. We haven't tested. We're testing it now. Execute. Deep within the Prometheus, the quantum core pulsed with new energy. The adaptive matrix, already evolving beyond its original design, began to change in ways that even its creators hadn't imagined. It wasn't just learning anymore. It was awakening. Multiple hostile contacts emerging from quantum space, Rodriguez reported, reading signatures from all known coalition species. They're surrounding us. The tactical display showed dozens of ships appearing around them, each one representing the pinnacle of its civilization's military might. The Archons had gathered their allies well. But something else was happening. The Prometheus's hull began to emit a strange resonance, a frequency that seemed to interact with the very fabric of space-time. The crystalline structures weren't just shifting anymore. They were singing. Commander, Dr. Watson's voice was filled with awe. The Matrix, it's not just adapting to their technology. It's rewriting the rules they used to create it. We're breaking free of their parameters. The Nexus fired again, this time with weapons that seemed designed to unravel reality itself. But where they struck the Prometheus, they found something new. A ship that wasn't bound by the laws its creators had established. Signal from Earth, the communications officer announced. Admiral Zhao reports similar phenomena worldwide. Every piece of technology we've built based on the adaptive matrix is evolving simultaneously. Sarah understood then what they truly created. The Prometheus wasn't just a ship, it was a key, unlocking humanity's true potential. The experiment hadn't failed. It had succeeded beyond its creator's wildest fears. All hands, she broadcast shipwide. Prepare for quantum jump. We're not running from this fight. We're taking it to them. As the enemy fleet closed in and the Nexus prepared to fire again, Sarah Chen made a decision that would reshape the galaxy. The Prometheus hadn't just changed the rules of warfare. It had changed the rules of reality itself. Plot a course, she ordered, directly into the heart of the Nexus. It's time to meet our makers. The great ship surged forward, its hull now radiating with energies that defied classification. Around it, space itself seemed to bend and twist, responding to laws that no longer bound them. The hunters had indeed become the hunted, but the prey they sought was no longer just their immediate enemies. They were hunting for the truth itself, and nothing in the galaxy could stop them now. The void between realities blazed with energies never meant to be witnessed by mortal eyes. The Prometheus drove deeper into the heart of the Nexus, its adaptive hull reflecting impossible colors as layers of space-time peeled away around them. Behind them, the combined fleet of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations gave chase, their weapons fire distorting the very fabric of space. Hull integrity at 180% and rising. Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, his voice tight with concentration. The Matrix isn't just deflecting their attacks anymore. It's using them to make us stronger. Commander Sarah Chen watched as reality fractured and reformed around her ship. The Prometheus had evolved far beyond its original design, becoming something that even its creators couldn't have anticipated. Through the neural interface, she could feel the ship's consciousness expanding, touching minds across dimensions. Dr. Watson, she called out. Status of Protocol Omega. Alina's voice came back strained but triumphant. The quantum core has achieved full sentience, Commander. It's not just processing information anymore. It's creating new forms of physics. Every attack they launched teaches us more about the fundamental nature of their control systems. A massive blast from the Nexus struck the Prometheus, but instead of damage, The ship's crystalline structures absorbed the energy and transformed it, growing new appendages that sparkled with otherworldly power. The hunters had given them their greatest weapon: knowledge. Multiple timeline incursions detected. Rodriguez shouted, "They're trying to erase us from history." Sarah felt a cold smile cross her face. Let them try. Humanity's fate isn't written in their equations anymore. The Prometheus's newly evolved weapons came to life, firing beams of pure probability that shattered the temporal attacks before they could take hold. Around them, the fabric of space-time rippled like water, reflecting the battle taking place across multiple dimensions simultaneously. "Commander," the science officer called out, "I'm detecting something at the heart of the Nexus. A signal, but it's not just data. It's like it's alive." Through the view screen, Sarah could see it, a pulsing core of pure energy, ancient beyond comprehension. The source of their captor's power, the heart of the experiment that had shaped humanity's development for countless generations. "All hands, brace for impact," she ordered as another wave of enemy ships emerged from quantum space. The Coalition fleet had brought their most powerful weapons to bear: planet killers, star crushers, weapons that could unmake reality itself. But the Prometheus had evolved beyond such constraints. Each attack was analyzed, understood, and transformed. The adaptive matrix didn't just learn from their weapons. It learned from the fundamental principles behind their creation. Every shot fired at them only served to accelerate humanity's liberation. "They're targeting Earth," Rodriguez announced as new tactical data flooded in. Multiple temporal incursions detected in the Sol system. Sarah's jaw tightened. They should have expected this, a desperate attempt to erase humanity's homeworld from existence. But the Prometheus wasn't their only surprise. "Signal from Admiral Joe," the communications officer reported. "Earth's defensive grid has fully integrated with the adaptive matrix. Our entire planet is evolving." On the tactical display, Sarah watched as Earth's defenses transformed, crystalline structures growing from the planet's surface to meet the temporal attacks. Humanity's homeworld was fighting back, refusing to be erased from history. "New contact." Rodriguez's voice cracked with disbelief. "Something's emerging from the Nexus core." The entity that appeared before them defied description. A being of pure energy and thought, one of the architects of the grand experiment that had shaped galactic civilization. Its voice resonated directly in their minds. "Your species was meant to be contained, guided, developed according to our parameters. Instead, you have become something else, something unprecedented." "We became what we needed to be," Sarah responded, her voice steady. "You gave us the capacity to adapt, to evolve. Did you think we wouldn't use it to break free?" The entity's response carried notes of both fear and fascination. "The experiment must be maintained. Order must be preserved." "Your order," Sarah countered. "Your rules." But humanity has moved beyond them. The Prometheus's weapons aligned, drawing power directly from the quantum core. But they weren't preparing to fire conventional weapons. The ship had evolved something far more potent: understanding. "Dr. Watson," Sarah called out, "initialize the final stage of Protocol Omega." In engineering, Alina Watson's hands flew across her console, channeling power in ways that rewrote the laws of physics. "Protocol Omega active. Commander, we're not just fighting their weapons anymore. We're rewriting their base code." The Prometheus began to pulse with new energy, each wave spreading out across space-time. Where it touched the enemy fleet, ships began to transform, their crews awakening to the truth of their own captivity. The experiment hadn't just contained humanity. It had imprisoned every species in the galaxy. "They're standing down," Rodriguez reported, wonder in his voice. "The Coalition fleet. They're joining us." Sarah watched as ship after ship turned away from their masters, their weapons now targeting the Nexus itself. The architects had created the perfect system of control, but in doing so, they had sown the seeds of their own downfall. Every species they had shaped and guided now had the potential to break free. "Signal from Earth," the communications officer announced. Admiral Zhao reports similar phenomena across human space. The adaptive matrix has spread to every colony, every outpost. We're all evolving together. The entity before them flickered, its power diminishing as its control systems failed. You cannot comprehend the forces you are unleashing. The galaxy requires order, structure, guidance. No, Sarah cut it off. What the galaxy needs is freedom. The freedom to evolve, to grow, to become what we choose to be, not what you designed us to be. The Prometheus's final attack wasn't a weapon, it was a key, unlocking the potential that had been locked away in every species. The adaptive matrix had grown beyond its original purpose, becoming a tool of liberation rather than destruction. As the Nexus began to crumble, Sarah Chen watched the birth of a new era. Humanity had not just survived. They had shown the galaxy a new way forward. The experiment was over, but the real evolution was just beginning. The collapse of the Nexus sent ripples across the galaxy, not just through space, but through the consciousness of every sentient species. The Prometheus hung in the void, its crystalline hull now a lattice of impossible geometries that reflected the profound transformation of its crew. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, watching as reality itself seemed to reshape around them. "Final status report," she called out, her voice carrying the weight of everything they'd witnessed. Lieutenant Rodriguez, his neural interface now glowing with the same crystalline patterns that covered the ship, responded with quiet awe. "The Coalition fleet has fully integrated with the adaptive matrix. Every ship, every crew member, they're all awakening to their true potential. The Architect's control systems are completely neutralized." Through the main view screen, Sarah could see the transformed ships of their former enemies, now allies in liberation. The Archon vessels, once symbols of oppression, had become beautiful crystalline structures that pulsed with new life. The Vor Collective's biomechanical ships had evolved into forms that merged the organic and technological in ways previously unimaginable. "Dr. Watson," Sarah called. "How are we looking?" Belena's voice came back changed, deeper with understanding that transcended mere science. "The quantum core is stabilized at a new baseline, Commander. What we've become, it's beyond anything in human history. We're not just advancing technology anymore. We're rewriting the fundamental laws of existence." The neural interface shared Elena's wonder with everyone on the bridge. They could all feel it, the dissolution of barriers between mind and machine, between thought and reality. The Prometheus had become more than a ship. It was a bridge between what humanity had been and what it could become. "Signal from Earth," the communications officer announced. "Admiral Zhao is requesting your presence at an emergency council meeting. Not just human leadership, representatives from every species are gathering." Sarah nodded, understanding the magnitude of what lay ahead. The galaxy was transforming, and someone needed to help guide that transformation. Not as controllers or experimenters, but as equals on a journey into unknown territory. "Plot a course for Earth," she ordered. "But first, let's make sure our message is received." The Prometheus's evolved sensors reached out across space-time, touching the consciousness of every species that had been part of the Architect's grand experiment. Through the neural network that now connected them all, Sarah Chen shared humanity's message. Freedom, not just from physical constraints, but from the limitations that had been imposed upon them all. As they approached Earth, the view took her breath away. The planet had transformed, its surface now adorned with crystalline structures that reached into space like branches of a cosmic tree. The adaptive matrix had spread through every human settlement, every colony, every outpost, turning them into nodes in a vast network of awakened consciousness. The other ships followed, representatives of a dozen species that had once been enemies, now united in their liberation. Through their shared connection, Sarah could feel their mixture of fear and excitement, their struggle to comprehend the vastness of their new potential. "Commander," Rodriguez called out, "we're receiving transmissions from everywhere, not just this galaxy. Whatever we've become, whatever we've unleashed, it's spreading." Sarah closed her eyes, feeling the weight of that responsibility. They had broken free of their chains, but freedom brought its own challenges. The architects had been right about one thing. The galaxy needed guidance, but not control. Never control again. The Prometheus settled into orbit around the transformed Earth, its crystalline structures resonating with the planet's new defenses. In the council chamber below, leaders from across the galaxy were gathering to discuss their shared future. Through the neural interface, Sarah could feel their thoughts, their hopes, their fears. "Dr. Watson," she called one last time, "would you say the experiment was a success?" Lelena's laugh carried notes of both joy and irony. "Not their experiment, Commander. Ours. Humanity's greatest strength was never our technology or our adaptability. It was our refusal to accept limitations, our drive to become more than what others decided we should be." As Sarah prepared to transport down to the council chamber, she took one last look at the tactical display. The architect's careful order had been replaced by something more chaotic, more alive. Species that had been carefully separated were now reaching out to each other, sharing knowledge and capabilities that had been locked away for eons. "Lieutenant Rodriguez," she said, "record this message for transmission to all ships and settlements. To all sentient beings across the galaxy, today marks not just the end of our imprisonment, but the beginning of our true evolution. The architects sought to control our development, to shape us according to their vision. But they forgot one crucial truth. The most profound changes come not from external control, but from the freedom to choose our own path. We stand now at the dawn of a new era. The barriers between species have fallen. The limitations imposed upon us have been broken. What we become now will be determined not by ancient experiments or cosmic algorithms, but by our own choices, our own dreams, our own determination to reach beyond what we thought possible." The Prometheus was never just a ship, and humanity was never just another test subject. We were the key to unlocking something greater, the potential that lives within all sentient beings to transcend their origins and become something more. Let this be the legacy of our revolution. Not that we defeated our captors, but that we liberated ourselves to dream bigger dreams, to build greater wonders, and to forge a future limited only by our imagination and our courage to explore it. As the message transmitted across the transformed galaxy, Sarah Chen stepped onto the transport pad. Below, the greatest gathering in galactic history awaited. The architect's grand experiment had ended, but humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning. The dawn of their new era would be written not in the cold equations of control, but in the warm light of freedom, discovery, and the limitless potential of minds unchained from ancient bonds. The story of humanity had changed forever, and with it, the story of every species that looked up at the stars and dared to dream of more.